Hi, good Friday morning. It's good to be with you. It's been a difficult few weeks, I think. I know for a lot of families in our area, um, some folks have passed away from COVID, young people. And one of the things that um, I think we get wrong sometimes is we think that because someone is going through something or um, because maybe we think only we're going through something, we maybe think it's why us or unfair. And I want to share a few thoughts. It's actually a lesson my dad taught years ago, and it's short. It'll be sweet, but I think it's something we all need. And this is learning from the storm. It's from Matthew 14. I'm not going to take the time to read that, but it's Matthew 14, 22 through 33. And sometimes we ask that concept of why me when maybe we go through storms that we don't see unbelievers go through or we don't see other people go through, and maybe we think that it's just us. But I think this gives us five principles to help us make sense out of the storm. The first thing I think it shows us is that we need to do what the Lord tells us to do. Um, Jesus told the disciples to go to the other side of the lake. They obeyed that. And so sometimes we often think that storms are a result of our disobedience, but the thing is it's not necessarily so. Sometimes with this passage, we're going to see if we do exactly what God wants us to do, we're still going to face storms. Sometimes we'll face storms because we are obedient. And I know that's a hard concept and that's a hard truth sometimes for us. But storms are a part of our life, but it's what we do through them. And the first thing we need to do is we need to obey Him. We need to obey Him. So we also need to not get focused on the storm or not get so focused on the storm that we lose sight of Jesus. Often God brings storms into our lives or allows them to come to our lives so that He can speak to us. They get our attention. There's no doubt that storms get our attention. And Jesus says, "Be of good cheer, it is I. Don't be afraid." Matter of fact, the children of Israel had forgotten who God was so many times and what He could do. The disciples didn't trust Him. We don't always trust Him when we go through difficult times. It's one of those things where if you're picking a basketball team and and there's a tall guy who walks up you don't know, you ask him a few questions about if he's any good or not. You don't automatically pick him. But if this is going to date me right here, but if Michael Jordan walks in the room, you don't quiz him about who he is or whether he's any good at basketball. You pick him immediately, right? There's no question. You don't quiz him because you know him and what he can do. Well, that's the same thing with God. We know him. We know the power that he has. We don't need to quiz him. We need to trust him. And so whatever we are facing, God is on our side if we're obedient to him. One of the thoughts I think we see is also that we won't do anything great for God if we won't get out of the boat from our passage. I know Peter kind of gets a bad rap, and I've shared this before. He let go. He didn't keep looking at Christ. We got out of the boat. How many of us would even get out of the boat? How many of us would even bother getting out of the boat? I'm not getting in. There was a storm. Peter got out of the boat. He was willing to leave that safety behind, and we have to be willing to leave safety behind sometimes. The boat sometimes is full of people that doubt, people that hold us back, people that hurt us. Sometimes it's good things that are in the way. We can't let them get in the way of obeying and stepping out of faith. And we also can't let discouragement stop us from taking that step of faith. Maybe you failed in the past. We've all failed. Name an inventor that hasn't failed and failed and failed and failed and failed. When in reality, they didn't fail. They learned how it didn't work so they could do something new and try something new. And that's how you have success. And so you won't do anything great if you don't get out of the boat. 2 more points. In a storm, God is going to reveal to us that we're not all that we think we are. Sometimes we have a pretty inflated view of ourselves. We tend to think more highly of ourselves than we should. And I think storms will reveal problems. Storms are going to reveal if there's leaks in the boat. I will never forget going out on the lake with my grandpa, and the plug wasn't put in the boat. We found out real quick that the plug was not in the boat. You find out very fast if something is wrong with your boat when there's water, when there's a storm, when something's going on. And storms reveal the leaks in our boat pretty quickly. They show our failures. And when Peter tried everything he probably thought to try, he blurted out, "Lord, save me." Even though we may try things our way, even though we may fail completely, all we have to do is call out to him. That's it. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean it's not going to hurt, but he will save us. And storms will keep us from taking ourselves not only so seriously, but they'll keep us from taking God so lightly. And so certainly storms reveal, God reveals to us we're not all who we think we are. And here's the promise. I know it's been a difficult week for whether it's been people who are sick and certainly some accidents and different things, people have passed away. But we can never forget that God is with us in the middle of our storms. And some of us doubt God's love for us. And I think the thing that we need to see in this passage especially is the storm didn't stop until after Jesus and Peter were back in the boat. God doesn't have to stop the storm in order to save us. Sometimes it's raging all around us. Sometimes it's still going on and he is there with us. He doesn't leave us in the storm. He's with us in the storm. He doesn't always promise to stop the storm, but he promises to be with us in the storm. And I'm certain that there are so many times in my life where the storm didn't stop. And to be fair, the storm hasn't stopped, but he is with me in the storm. And I think this conclusion thought says it all. We don't see God like we should until we go through storms. If everything is perfect all the time, how are we going to know that God can save us? How are we going to know that we need to trust him with everything? Well, I think that's the same thing that Satan said to God about Job. Of course he trusts you. Of course he loves you. Everything's perfect. And then God allowed storms into Job's life. And he allows storms in our lives. He's in complete control. He is not the author of evil. He is not the author of tragedy, but he's with us in those. So I hope that's a wonderful promise that you'll remember that God is with us in storms and we can learn from them. And we can put our full trust in him and always rely that he will save us. He doesn't always promise to get us out of there, but he promises to be with us at all times. Hope you all have a wonderful holiday weekend. Hopefully you get some time off. Maybe you've got some yard projects or whatever, but trusting you'll have a wonderful holiday, praying for all those who have been sick, and certainly praying for those families who have lost loved ones. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and may God bless.